Hello, my name is Brian and welcome to the Win911 webinar. Today we will be discussing how you bring your alarms over into Win911. We'll be going through FactoryTalk, GE iFIX, and Wonderware InTouch. A quick rundown of today's agenda. We'll be going through the technical resources, followed by the subscription filters for each of these SCADAs, FactoryTalk alarm events, iFIX, and InTouch. If you're only interested in one of these SCADA types, I recommend fast forwarding the video until you reach the SCADA type that you're interested in. The final step in the process, I'll be showing you some troubleshooting tips using our log viewer to make sure you know exactly what alarms go where. The technical videos we have are available on our resources tab of our website win911.com. There are 6 new videos today which talk about InTouch system platform, InTouch ME, FactoryTalk, GE iFIX, and OPC if you're not using one of these SCADAs. These are short, abbreviated 10-minute videos if you're interested in how to use our software. First of all, where are we today? So our alarms trigger our strategies, which trigger our tactics. So alarm is the event that happens that we wish to monitor. Maybe it's a tank level, a comm alarm, or something like that. These events trigger a strategy. The strategy is the policies of actions to put in place. It's your starting, stopping, and re-notifying. This strategy triggers a tactic. This tactic is a call-out list of people. So as tank level goes high, we can then email Bob or call Jim or notify Susan via text message. Today we'll be focusing on the alarms and how you can bring your alarms over into Win911. This is a rundown of all the SCADAs we support for Win911. If your SCADA is not shown, you would be using the OPC connection. As you can see, only a few SCADAs support the alarm import. This method is similar to version 7 in how you choose which alarms you want to bring over. You point them a specific call-out list. We also have a new version called subscriptions and subscription filters. This is a dynamic means of bringing your alarms over into Win911, and we filter the tag or the block name based on different criteria. We'll be focusing on FactoryTalk, iFIX, and InTouch. As you can see, there's different things that each SCADA can filter on. FactoryTalk has names, classes, and severity we'll be filtering our alarms for. iFIX has block names and areas, and InTouch has a tag name, a group, and a priority. If you're interested in only one of these SCADA types, I recommend moving forward in the video until you find the SCADA type you're interested in. First, let's take a look at a demo for FactoryTalk. I've created a list of some alarms we will look at and bring these alarms over into Win911. The first step of any process, regardless of SCADA, is to figure out which alarms are of interest and who you wish to notify. These alarms for the drives, the drive fault, I want to notify our technician. So I can create a strategy or a policy called technicians. For the filtering process, I'll notify on the word drive. So I'm filtering the tag for the word drive. So anything that contains the word drive will be brought over to this strategy. Next, these alarms here, I would like to notify the operators. So scale fault or motor requires maintenance. These alarms are assigned in my FactoryTalk to have a packaging 2 class. These alarms I'll point over to my operator. The final alarms are low pressure or a photo eye misread. These have a certain severity of 800, 830, and I will bring these alarms over to our engineer strategy. So our engineers will be called out. Let's take a look inside of Win911 how you can filter these alarms over. Inside of Win911, you'll see I have my different SCADAs across the top. You will only have the SCADAs which you purchased, but for this demo, I have all of our SCADAs available. I'm under the FactoryTalk alarm events and the applications tab. In this tab, this is where I will configure my connection over into our SCADA. So I have a name, you can define your description, if it's a local or network, and your applications and your passwords. The next step in the process, if you have any watchdogs you like to configure, this is where you can do that. So say, for example, there's a PLC ARP-beat like I have here. It has a certain class. This is where you can define those events and bring them over into Win911. You can define a call or alarm based on this watchdog event. In this event, I'm notifying the strategy that's called default. Okay, let's start by bringing those alarms over into FactoryTalk. We're on the subscriptions tab. We'll click the plus. The first strategy we chose, we would like to name is called Techs. In this group, all those drive alarms we'll bring over into Win911, so we can filter on specific name. In here, you'll notice we can filter on wildcard, regular expression, contains, does not contain. Let's filter on anything that has the word contains. We can use a little asterisk for a wildcard, meaning anything before that will be caught, as well as anything after it if I put a star at the end. So we can filter on the word drive. Now be careful, based on what your tag is named, these words are case sensitive, so this does need to match exactly what you have over in FactoryTalk. We'll filter on the word drive. So if this filter contains the word drive, this filter will catch that alarm. So let's save this alarm. Next, let's create that filter for those two alarms related to the operators. That was a scale and a motor maintenance. We'll name this operators. And we'll filter on specific classes. One thing to note, you can do any combination. You do this and this and this, or only this and this. It's up to you on how you choose to filter. One thing to note is inside of these items, if you add more items in here are ORed. So it could be class East packaging line or class West, but these items inside here are ORed, then they're ANDed together with these. So it's and, or whichever combination of these you should choose. Inside here, all these items are ORed together. Our class we chose to filter on is called PKG_2. So PKG_2. We can do a wildcard if we choose, or we can make it say contains. Let's just go with contains PKG_2. Let's save this one. Finally, let's make that filter for our engineers, our engineer strategy. It'll go to severity of 800 to 830 for the low pressure and the photo IMS read. So we'll create a new engineers. We can filter on a specific range. You can either move the slider or type it. 800, 830. Save. And now we have our engineer filter. We have these three filters catching these different alarms. Now we need to point these alarms to somewhere. We'll point them to a strategy. That strategy will point to the call-out list of people. We go over to the Applications tab, and now we make a route. Our first route we can make for our text, so we can either type or search, and I already have a strategy created called text. I like to personally make these end-to-end the same, so it's text points to text, which points to tactic, a call-out list of people. But you can choose to name these whichever you would like. Next, we can make for our operators. We can point to our operator strategy. Finally, we can make our engineers point to our engineers strategy. So as these alarms come in, the alarm will filter through. Does the alarm criteria meet this? Yes or no. Does it meet this criteria? Yes or no. Does it have a certain severity? Let's say, yes, it does have a severity of 800, 830, then the engineer strategy would be called out. And you can choose to move these up and down however you'd like. One thing we're also going to add on here is an all alarms filter. We always put this at the very bottom, and you can make some either default strategy, or you can put it to do not notify, which means if alarm filters in, doesn't get caught by any of these call outs, then this all alarms will catch this, and it'll point it to the do not notify. I'll talk about later in the log viewer how you can use this as a troubleshooting tool. But for now, let's save. So we have our alarm filters come in, the alarms are filtered, it's going to check against all these criteria. If it's met, it'll go to this strategy. If it's not, it'll go down the list. Finally, we have our all alarms, which will go to the do not notify if it doesn't meet any of this criteria. And that's how you filter your alarms in using FactoryTalk alarm events. Next, I'll be discussing our GE iFIX and how you can bring your alarms over. Okay, let's take a look at iFIX. Here's a similar application we have with the drives, the scale, and the motor maintenance. Similarly, who do you want to notify? The techs and the operators for these certain alarms. We will filter on now the block name for all the items in the red, and for the orange items, these are on the east area. So these items have east area. We will filter these and bring these over in the operator. I recommend taking a screenshot here before I move on. Okay, inside of Win911, we're on the Alarming iFIX tab. We're on Source. As you can see, I already have a source set up here for my queue. This is where you can set up your alarm queue. If you click the Learn More button, there's some instructions step by step that show you how you set up your GE iFIX alarm queue. There's also the questionnaire up here. They'll pull you to any help page for a screen that you're on. For example, if you're on Tactics or Strategies page, this will bring up more information on the tactics and strategies. This is true regardless of your SCADA. So first, to set up your alarm queue, you can follow those instructions on how to do that. The next step in the process for configuring your alarms in your SCADA, you can set up health alarms. Your health alarms are set up if there's an error in the iFIX alarm queue you would like to notify on this. In this example, I have the alarm goes off, I'll notify the advanced maintenance strategy. That will be point to a call-out list of people in a tactic. We also have the ability to configure your watchdogs inside of iFIX. Similar to Rockwell, you can configure a watchdog. Here we have the PLC heartbeat, the node name, and some tag name we'll monitor. When this watchdog is not working, or goes off rather, we will notify the strategy for advanced maintenance. You can also define your severity and a label. So we have our source you configure, your health alarms for the queue, and any watchdogs you wish to monitor. Now let's talk about bringing those alarms in. We'll be on the Filters tab. We can click the plus to add a new filter. So as those alarms come in, we'll catch them dynamically. Now this is a little bit different configuration compared to FactoryTalk. Here you drop down the needle, and as you can see, we can filter on the two criteria: block names and your areas. The first item we choose to notify on is our block name for drive. So we can make a specific block name. Again, you have the wildcard regular expression. We'll do the wildcard for anything with drive. Keep in mind your case sensitivity. So now we have that long alarm name called PKG_1/drive number 12345_fault. Any tag or block that has that word drive in it will be caught by this filter. Now, if we have 5 drives, we have a 6th drive, it will already have that drive in there. This filter will catch that 6th alarm. And that's what we mean by dynamic means of bringing your alarms over. As you add things, they can be already caught by other filters, and you don't have to go back and import your alarms. The last step in the process is to point your alarm to a strategy. Over here, we can point this to our technician strategy. Now for our iFIX, as this alarm goes off, we'll point this alarm to our technician's strategy. So the technician strategy will have a call list of people. This strategy could point to a tactic such as email Brian, text Joe, and then call Sue. But that's defined inside of your tactic. So let's save this subscription route. Okay, let's add another filter for our operators. We click the plus. As you notice, this pops up here on the top. And for our operators, we chose to filter on an area for East packaging line, let's call it. So anything with the area of East will be caught by this filter. Where will this go? We chose to point this to our operators. As alarm comes in, it'll point to our operator strategy. Our operator strategy will point to a tactic or a call-out list of people. Inside that call-out list, it could have call up Jim, then email Brian. Now let's say you wanted to filter on East and the West area for the different packaging lines. You could just do a similar case like this. Now we're filtering on East or West. You can also use this in conjunction with your block names. For example, if you had a packaging jam, you could filter on something like that. Any block name that had packaging jam and has East or West area will be caught by this filter. So you can use this in combination. You can add more items and or these items, and the block names and the areas are anded. So and inside of these items are ORed. If you had more here, these items would be ORed. But let's delete this, and let's delete the West, because we're only filtering on the East area for the operators. So that's our next one. We're going to add one final one. As you can see, it brings up here at the top. It will be all alarms. We can point this to any strategy. Let's point to do not notify for now. We'll talk about this later as we use log viewer, but you can point that to any strategy. We'll push this all the way down to the bottom. And now, as the alarms come in, the alarm will check to see, does this have a specific area for operators? Meaning, does it have the east area? Let's say no. Does it have the criteria for drive? Is it drive fault 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Let's say yes. If it is, it'll point to the technician's route. So you filter and push these items up and down for the most critical at the top, and then as the alarms come in, they'll filter through here. Now, for example, if the alarm is not caught by any of these filters, where will it go? In that case, we will go to the very bottom here for this all alarms, and we'll point to the do not notify strategy. We'll talk about that later with the log viewer. So let's save this. And that's how you configure your alarms inside of iFIX. Okay, last, let's talk about one-to-where InTouch. I recommend taking a screenshot here as I show you these alarms inside of Win911. These alarms are similar to our FactoryTalk and our iFIX. Same case, we have the drive faults. You can filter on tag name this time. These drive faults will point to our technician strategy. Next, we have the group for safety. Anything with the palletized or light curtain, these will go to our operator strategy. Finally, we have the engineers strategy. This will be for our low pressure and our PE misread. They have a priority of 800 to 830. A quick note about InTouch, your default group for your alarms is typically the $ system. So I've created a group called safety and put these specific alarms inside that group. Let's move over into Win911. Okay, inside of Win911, we are under the alarming, InTouch, and application. First step in the process, you'll define this application. Mine is called Win911, and I'm on a local host. Same case as our other SCADAs, we also have the ability to configure watchdogs. Here's where I configure a PLC heartbeat and give it a name, some tag I can monitor, and define that timeout. Finally, if this comes in, who do I want to notify? I'll use a safety strategy. In this safety strategy, it might have a call out to some safety engineer. So we have our application we configure, our watchdog, and if you need more help, you can use your question mark up here for more information on the configuration process. Let's just save this. Now let's talk about subscriptions. As the alarms come in, we can filter these and subscribe certain alarms to certain call-out lists and strategies. Click the plus button, and from our alarm list, we have the technician's strategy. And since I already used text, I'm using the same configuration for all the demos. I'm going to name this Text 1. Here we can filter on a specific tag name. Again, you have the drop down. You can filter on contains, does not contain, or a wildcard. Let's do contains drive. Keep in mind your case sensitivity. So any of those drive faults will be caught by this filter. You also have the ability to combine these, so you could do tag names, groups, and priorities. So these items are ANDed. It's tag names and groups and priorities. Say, for example, we had a specific tag name with the drives, the drive fault 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they had a priority of whatever it is. We could filter on drive and a certain priority gets caught by this filter. So you have some flexibility on how you filter these items. In this one, we're only filtering on drive. So let's save our text. Next up, we have our operators call out. So certain alarms will go to our operators. Call it operator, call it 2. Again, since I already used that earlier in my configuration, this is just a demo. Here we can filter on a specific group. So the palletized or light curtain alarms, we can filter these based on a group of safety. Safety, keep in mind your case sensitivity. So anything with a group safety will be caught by our operators filter. Let's save this. Next up, we have our engineers filter. So engineers, again, I'll name it 2 just because I'm using this as a demo. And here we chose to filter on priority. We can filter on priority of 800 to 830, or you can move the slider inside and out. So there we have it. Any alarm with a certain priority between 800 to 830 will be caught by this filter named engineers_2. Let's save. We have our engineers, our operators, and our technicians filter. So now we need to take these alarms as they come in, we need to point them somewhere. We need to point them to a strategy, which will eventually go to a call-out list of people or a tactic. To do that, we go to our applications and subscription routes. We edit, add new, and our first one we have is called Techs. Techs 1 is what I named it for InTouch. This will point to our technician strategy. Next up, we have our operators. Last up, we have our engineers. Engineers 2, actually. We point it to our engineer strategy. Now, finally, like other SCADAs, we'll add in all alarms, and we can point this to some default strategy you create, or a predefined strategy you already made, or an automatically acknowledged, whatever it might be. Let's choose Do Not Notify, and I'll talk about this more as I talk about the log viewer. Let's save and walk you through this. Now as alarm comes in, it'll check the alarm criteria against this subscription. If it's true, it points it to the strategy and starts that call out. If it's not, it goes down the line. So you can filter these items up and down. Typically you put the highest priority items up at the top and the lower ones at the bottom, because the alarms will come in, it'll filter, 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 eventually get caught. Now if an alarm is not caught, it'll go all the way through to the all alarms. This all alarms will point us to a Do Not Notify strategy. And I'll show you how to use that with the log viewer. So for our example, let's say we have the safety alarm goes off, the palletizer alarms go off for the light curtain. As the alarm comes in, it'll check against the text strategy, the text filter. Does this have the drive fault in it? No, so it's going to go down here. Does this have a group for safety? Yes, it does. So let's start our operators call out. Our operator strategy, which points to that call out list of people. So there it is. That's how you filter your alarms dynamically into InTouch. As your alarm names change, say for example, if you have the 6th drive, you have 1 through 5 right now, the 6th drive would already be caught by this text strategy. So there's a lot of flexibility you have in here, but you need to be careful on your subscriptions, what you subscribe on and what you don't, and where you point them. Let's take a look at the log viewer and how we can use that for troubleshooting regardless of your SCADA. Okay, troubleshooting using log viewer. This tool is available on Win911 with our standard interactive or advanced license of our software, and it's available with any SCADA or even our OPC connection. So what is log viewer? It's a troubleshooting tool that we have inside of Win911. To access it, there's a desktop icon like this, or it's in the Win911 folder called log viewer. Inside of here, you can use it to check your alarm status, whether they're active, unacknowledged, inactive, and you can see which strategy was executed. Remind you that that strategy points to a tactic, which points to a call-out list. If you need some more information on how you configure your strategies and tactics, there's another how-to instructional video available on our resources tabs with our how-to video. So in here you can see exactly which alarms went off and who they went to. So for log viewer, you have something that looks like this. Here's an alarm that went off. It shows the alarm point, your source, the strategy that was executed, and the date time. You also have the ability to go back in time and see exactly certain alarms that have occurred during a certain window. You can also use these little icons to filter on certain alarms or certain items to see if a certain tag or condition. This is your little filtering icon. On this log viewer page, you also have the ability to acknowledge certain alarms to just test out your Win911 connection and verify it's going through the SCADA. Here's a more detailed example. If you click on your notifications tab, you'll see some more alarms. You can see exactly who the alarm went to, when it was, and if the alarm went through successful. So say, for example, alarm's not going off or the person's not receiving the alarm. You can see if it was dispatched to the alarm, if it went out via phone or email, whatever it is. You can see the time and date and the status of the alarm. Here's an example of the alarm that is inactive and unacknowledged. We also have an alarm that is active and unacknowledged. So they show up green or red based on the state of the alarm. Now some troubleshooting tips. As you notice with all of our SCADAs, the last item I put in our filter criteria was something that showed all alarms going to our do not notify. Again, you can filter this all alarms to any strategy you choose for those alarms as they filter through the list. I showed the do not notify strategy for now, just as an example. What happens is the alarm comes in, it'll check against safety, manager, technicians. If it is one of these items, it's caught by a subscription, it will start that strategy. That strategy will start a call list of people. If it's not, it'll continue to filter down until they're all alarms. So this will go to the do not notify. This alarm, for example, went to our do not notify strategy, which means it filtered through all these alarms and then was caught by this all alarm do not notify. Now, if you didn't have this on here, this alarm wouldn't even be caught. So this could be an alarm that you're actually wanting to notify on. You need to see that it's going through. At least it's being caught by a do not notify. Now, what does this mean? This means this is an opportunity for me to go back and reevaluate which subscription route I'm using and some filtering criteria. Maybe I'm not using case sensitivity, I misspelled something, or something like that. I recommend going back and reevaluating your subscription and your subscription route to make sure it's going to the right call-out list of people. That's all for today's webinar. Hopefully by now I answered some of your questions on how you can filter your alarms dynamically into Win 911 using our subscription routes and filters. Thank you for watching.